It's funny. I've never seen someone take a look at Bitcoin and then go like, you know what? If I draw a line connecting these two peaks over here, and I have this trend line, that in the future price should come up and touch this trend line. Did you ever see this chart before? I remember this is one of the first charts that I saw in Bitcoin. I mean, this is the place that Satoshi and Hal Finney were communicating on. If you've seen this chart before, it's a really good chart. And people were using this to predict the future price of Bitcoin. If you look where we are in 2021, we're looking for a price of $100,000 Bitcoin. Is it possible by the end of the year that Bitcoin does trade up around $100,000? And of course, these things are expected to overshoot. What do I mean by that? That's where we are, right? That's a pretty good guess from 2014, 7 years in the future. And it seems that, you know what? Bitcoin right now is trading at something like $45,000 per Bitcoin. Well, that's a little more than a 1x. I've seen Bitcoin do a lot more than that. That's reasonable. That makes sense. It looks like that's going to be right on time. Now, what happens back in 2018, the bull market, we have like, $10,000 and rising. 2017, the end of it, $10,000 on the nose. Now, of course, Bitcoin went up almost to $20,000. These things tend to overshoot the medium of the line, as happened back in 2013. You see, do you expect that's going to happen again if this model continues to be on time, as it was 4 years earlier, price not only reaching the projected target of $10,000, but also overshooting to the upside? Do you think now in 2021, price is going to hit that projected $100,000 per Bitcoin? Or do you think that it's going to overshoot to the upside? Interesting if you think about it in those terms. But I've never seen someone look at Bitcoin and say, "Oh, I'm going to connect these 2 points over there, and then I would expect that Bitcoin is going to come up and no, that doesn't make sense." But it's been about 9 years since Bitcoin has settled. It's been trading within this channel. It's been trading in with the channel for over 9 years now. It's very clear where the lower channel support is, as well as the upper resistance mark in red. And when this breaks, the odds are that this is actually going to break out to the upside. It's going to go vertical at some point. It's going to be hyper Bitcoinization. The odds are, when we talk about some models are useful, all models are wrong. All models are going to break. All models are going to break to the upside. It's going to be breaking outside of the upper end of this channel. What I really want to focus on with you is going to be on the true trend and this last impulse that we just put in during August. Just 1 year ago, when Bitcoin broke out of its bull market, this is the prior all-time high on Bitcoin. And then we had this 12-month period over here where Bitcoin went into this descending triangle, and then there was a capitulation bottom. And then this went on, the bear market went on and on until just about a year ago, 2020, right after the halving, you're seeing Bitcoin's bull market begin. And out of the bull market, at the beginning of the bull market, I've been focusing on this little area for so long. I want to really zoom in on this with you. As price broke out of the bull market, technical break, connecting the last previous all-time high, and then this clear line of repair. It's the last line of repair, and when price broke above it, right, that was the beginning of the bull market. And you had the breakout, the retest. And I've often talked about how I don't think that we're going to come down and test the most important trend line in crypto, that I think that there'll be some space between the most important trend line in crypto right now and this current pullback, the pullback of wave one, the beginning of into wave two, where that new higher low is put in. We're not sure yet, but I do believe there'll be space. And this current, I've been saying this to you all week, this current moment reminds me of back then. What's interesting about that is you saw right after that, you saw Bitcoin by the end of the year. This was in August, September. It pulled back a little bit, and by the end of the year, you saw Bitcoin. It just melted faces. There's no question about it. What's really interesting to focus in on is this little bubble over here. I want you to focus all right over here on this bubble that we just put in. It happened to be during August, pulling back now into September. The last time that I'm pointing out the price action to you and the similarities between what's happening right now was just actually last year, 1 year ago, and it just happened to coincide with the breakout, the technical breakout of the bull market. and then last repair in. And this particular area from here to that peak, you're looking at, a 5.8x occurring in a matter of months. Is that what we're looking at, or is it going to be bigger to the upside? What about last cycle? From the mid cycle, it's very important to see. Let's go back into over here from the mid cycle to the end. That should be using the info line, and that's a 7x, right? We've talked about, we put in a 7x last time. We put in 2013, we put in an 11x. Is this time going to be an average? Are we looking at 8 or even 9x? Definitely potentially possible. Or do we put in another 7x? If we put in another 7, this cycle, if you look at it from many different vantage points, and let me pull up a favorite of mine for you. When you line up these cycles, right now you're looking at in white the current price of Bitcoin. And when you line up these cycles from the cycle low and then scale them to the halving, it looks like this current cycle is matching the performance of 2017 bull market, 2016 cycle, just 4 years earlier. They look pretty close. At times you've seen this bull market outperform, consolidate longer. It now just seems to be waking up. We know that 2017 came out at a much faster rate than 2013, out of the mid-cycle low into that cycle peak. Even though that this year made vastly more gains, you could see that this goes vertical over here. This is vertical enough, mind you. But is that what we're seeing? Is price going to put in a 7x as it did just 4 years from now? Or is that going to be and continue to be an average in volatility of the previous two cycles? And are we not looking at diminishing returns, but are we looking at seeing something like a 9x? Are we looking at some really, really under these uber easy monetary conditions, macro conditions just here, the why Bitcoin was built in the first place? Chancellor, banks on the brink of bailout. Yeah, so if you ask me to just visually look at this, it looks like that we're going to be peaking, somewhere around towards the end of December. That's what it looks like. If you line these up now from the greatest edge you could give yourself from the mid-cycle low, scale them all to the mid-cycle low, and look how price has acted outside of that mid-cycle low in the past, you can see that we are right on time. We are right now in wave 1, getting ready over here for the reset, right? For the coil into wave 2. Wave 2 setting up the final run of Bitcoin, the last 35 days. It's liftoff into cycle peak. We are getting closer. That's where the risk is right now. The risk is to the upside, no question about that. Is it unreal? Is it so unrealistic in the next 102 days, approximately 102 days? Are we looking at Bitcoin trading somewhere around $350,000, which we've seen Bitcoin do before? It did it 4 years ago. It put in a 7x. We saw 8 years ago Bitcoin. By the way, these things all happened towards the end of the year, basically in December. Within a couple of weeks, you've seen both of these bull markets top out. We are approaching and coming off and lining this up off the mid-cycle low. It's giving us, it looks like Bitcoin is going to be peaking out mid to late December. If we have an average of the two previous cycles, if we have a 9x, we're trading above $350,000. That seems like a pretty sweet target within the next 102 days. I know a lot of people, they have trouble being able to fathom that. They can't work out or understand that type of price behavior. I don't know why. It's not like as if it hasn't happened before. But yeah, as far as drawing lines and tagging lines, as it is, Bitcoin is within this channel that's been going on now for 9 years. It's touched the top end a couple of times, a few times. It's touched the bottom end a couple of times. It's going to again in the coming bear market. 2022 looks like it's going to be a bear market for Bitcoin. Look, I know that some people talk about only up. It looks like 2022 is going to be the year we go from the top of the channel towards the bottom of the channel. $350,000. That would be price tagging the top of the trend line over here. We've looked at it from multiple angles of how we perceive that we're getting there, why we feel that we're right on time, and why now that the mid-cycle low is in, that this is our best guess of the timing of how this is going to unfold. Obviously, as we get into lift off, we're going to be lining these things up again to get that accuracy of that 35 days into cycle peak. And again, just giving us as the trend lines give us. Here's the thing. You have no idea what human emotions are like. The emotions are going to be absolutely tense. Most people are not ready for what? No, that's not true. Most people are ready for $100,000 Bitcoin now. And there's no question about that. I've seen normal people, regular people telling me that, you know what, I could see $100,000 Bitcoin. It makes a lot of sense. Buying their first Bitcoin at around $50,000, right? Whatever they could do. And then I've seen other people that are a lot more invested and they feel like, yep, $100,000, I feel that. Is it possible that Bitcoin is moving towards $100,000 into November? That's where we have this trend line. This trend line is the one that this cycle ran into resistance in mid-cycle. It's going to be resistance again. And by the way, when it is resistance, right, is also going to be that huge psychological $100,000 level, because once price breaks above $100,000, and we do expect first of all the trend line, but to provide some resistance, right? This trend line is going to provide resistance here. Probably there's a pullback, and then boom, this thing blasts off, and it's going to be like a beach ball held underwater. The blow off top portion unfolds rapidly. It unfolds within days and weeks. You see the most up days with the greatest gains occur during this particular phase. If you don't believe it's going to happen, what's going to happen as it's unfolding, you're going to think that, wait a second, this time is different, right? Like hyper Bitcoinization's taking place. Bitcoin's going to $1 million, and it's happening right now. And that's what it's going to feel like. The trend lines offer you that awareness that if you get towards the top of the channel, this thing is roaring, piping hot, and you're looking to exit, and you're looking to exit at the top. You have to have that type of awareness. Otherwise, you are going to get it wrong. So could that happen? Could we see Bitcoin right now trading at $46,000 over the next 2 months? By the way, October and November both happen to be historically very bullish months for Bitcoin. Is it possible that they have, just over a 100% return in the next 2 months on Bitcoin? Obviously, we've seen Bitcoin do that, and we've seen that do that pretty often, right? What is Bitcoin off the mid-cycle low, by the way? 62%, in a month. It looks good. It looks on time. We're watching it. Right now, we're looking for price to put in a lower high. We're looking for price right now off the mid-cycle low to make some type of lower high, and then we're looking for another lower high. We're looking for wave 2, the second lower high, and that is into lift off. From the pullback of lift off, we're looking for the move into cycle peak. Is $350,000 something that actually might be pretty realistic? If you lay up the past cycles, you could see that, wow, that's what price has done. That's what price has a tendency to do. So until it no longer does that, I would imagine that it's possible it could play out again. What's up, baby girl?
I want you to picture for a moment exactly what your life would look like if you were a millionaire. The truth is, you would have a lot of the same concerns, consistently working hard to grow as a person and develop fruitful, loving relationships all around you. Your greatest concern in life would still be your health and the health of those around you. There would be one main difference though, and it's an important one. You would no longer have to worry about money. You would have the freedom to do what you wanted, when you wanted. You would have control. Financial freedom is the freedom to be able to make choices. The choices about what you do with your most precious resource, your time, who you spend it with, and where and what you do with it. I want you to open yourself up as we begin to talk about what it takes to become rich trading. Traders are often very concerned with how much money they can make and how quickly they can make it. And each day and each trading session is approached as almost the improbable or impossible. The reason I want to share this formula with you is because it's very important to have the correct mindset, the mindset of an investor. And it's important to focus on this formula for the bigger picture And this is going to help you to be able to execute, which is what you need to do in order to achieve your goals. You need to be able to execute. So let's take a look. Starting with a $3,000 balance. How do you get there? How do you achieve your goals? Where are you starting from? If you're starting with just a $3,000 balance today, and you are committing to making for the next 5 years, regularly, yearly, another $3,000 deposit, what is that? Like $260 or so a month. Go ahead and take a look, and the rate of return. You know, holding Bitcoin, what do you think you could do? What do you think you could achieve yearly? I think the average rate of return annually is something closer to about 120%. Take a look at some of these numbers. 2017, 1,300, 2020, 300, that's 2019, 87, and 2018, 72. These two cancel each other out. You're looking over 4 years, 1,600 divided by 4. You're looking at 400% a year. There you go. Mean annual return, 400%, showing the percent change for every year into Bitcoin. It's a couple of down years. 2022, right? Good chance it's a down year as well. That's what I'm expecting. Not being invested, whether that's worth it to you during these bear market years, it could have a significant change in your overall accumulation. That's for some more advanced stuff. So you can see, even if we did experience something like drastically diminishing returns, instead of 400% over the last 4 years, maybe we're looking something forward at like 200%. But even if we only get 70%, what happens if you use something realistic? What happens if you use something like a 30% return over the next 5 years in Bitcoin? You're looking at taking a total deposit over 5 years, $18,000, and growing your account to $46,000. That's only over a 5-year period. But it's also with a 30% return. I think that I personally expect to achieve over a 70% return annually in Bitcoin over the next, 10 years? Absolutely. So let's take a look at that. Let's make that 10 years, 70%. I think underestimating greatly over there. We'll see. We don't know. I think it's safe. I think it's safe to work out my plan using 70% expected return in Bitcoin over the next 10 years. And then you're taking that $33,000, you're turning it into $2 million. Now, $2 million is comfortable. You could basically buy whatever you want whenever you need it. Really very comfortable. But the thing is, when I first started doing this, I did this with 11 years. It was an 11-year plan with 3 halving events. And if you really want to plan this out correctly, starting today, you could go ahead over the next 11 years, expect to have 3 more halving events. Next one, it's every 210,000 blocks. Next one, estimated 20,000, 24, 20,000, 28, 20,000, 32. But the thing is the bull market happens the year after the halving, so you're going to want to make this a 12-year plan, 70% annual return. And now you're looking, total deposits over those 12 years, $39,000, $3,000 a year. You're committing to this plan, to your investment plan, and then you're looking at, $5 million if we hit our expected 70%. Anything could happen. Understand your risk and what your risk is before you make any investment, and do not invest any more than you could afford to lose. But make sure you make calculated risks. Is this a calculated risk? Now, if there was just an 85% annual return in Bitcoin over the next 12 years, you would be looking at something, $15 million. That's from here on up. You go on borderline ridiculous for a 12-year plan. But 70%, 12 years, next 3 halvings. You're starting today. $5 million is rich. $2 million, you're definitely comfortable, no question about that. But $5 million, I would say that it's a great plan to have in place. I think it's foundational, fundamental, that anyone beginning before anything else should have this plan in place. And then you could go ahead and leverage different investments. Why does it matter? If we're experiencing diminishing returns, then we want to be following a roadmap, a guide that is giving us that clarity that we could position in and out. If you're just buying Bitcoin and holding it for the next 10 years, you don't have to do anything. You could walk away. But if you're trying over those next 2 years, where you already have that fundamental plan in place to acquire as much Bitcoin
as you can and doing it in a very calculated, risk-averse way, then it really matters to understand these price movements. 150 days, that's a small time frame to be looking at and considering for this type of investment. The 2012 cycle, you can see here in 2013, peaking higher. This is 11x, an 11x, 7x. Are we going to see something like a 9x, something in the average of the two? As we've seen up until this point, this cycle has been an average in volatility to the upside. It's been an average of the two cycles in volatility to the downside. And as far as consolidation and sideways so far up until this point, it's been an average of the two. Will the return also be a 9x? If I can get it, I want it all. I will take what the market gives me, though.
I mean, I think price says everything, really, doesn't it? You know, and it's such a significant price move. It comes off of a dip and then it moves so fast. It's not going to be something that you're going to miss. Yeah.
No
and
way.
it's having it's really sort of seeing that as early as possible. Yeah. That's why I think that's probably the biggest event to happen.
By the way, as we begin following price action, I saw it this morning on the live show. I was looking at this. I don't know if either of you saw it, but I've spoke about the 4-step at the top that happened during the both previous cycles. You could see it clearly here as well. That's also a sign, I believe, as we're in the blow off top, as we talked about, some people like to exit afterwards on the way down. This for me is the signal over here, the price action that if this is occurring again, there's no question after the 1, 2, 3, 4, on 4, I'm exiting. If we're seeing that unfold in real time, that's going to be a strong signal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and on 4 is the exit